Hello. Okay, so we took some time to set up all this stuff. Is it fine, or the audio, is it too much? It's okay? Maybe I'll reduce it a little bit. The main goal is that it goes to the camera, so I think this I can even reduce. In fact, I can even do without it, because the purpose is to connect it to the camera, not to the speaker, because I can speak aloud that you can hear, so I think that should be okay. Okay, so we begin with the third session today. The topic again is, we are continuing what we have been doing, logic and reasoning, and there are just two subtopics in today's talk. So before I just kind of actually begin with whatever I have to say, I would like to take start with a general discussion on theism and atheism. So basically, as you're aware, since time immemorial, whether in India or abroad, people have always thought of these two possibilities. So theism means, you all understand, theism means, believing or accepting in a creator or a god, whereas atheism means that feeling that there is no such person, right? Of course, there are some other versions as well. Like, for example, there is something that's called as agnostic. You've heard of the term agnostic? Agnostic means what? Yeah, agnostic actually means neither believer nor acceptor. But agnostic actually still tends more towards, agnostic basically means I just don't care about it. Whether it's there or no, it's not, I have so many other things to do in the world, so I'd rather worry about them. So I'm really not concerned about it. That's actually what agnostic means. So, as I told you, all over the world there are these two types of thinkers which have always been there. Like, if you see in Indian philosophers also, there were people like Charvak, or there was one Kapila as well, who spoke of atheism. So that's why many times many people feel also that Indian philosophies, there have been Indian philosophers who have been taking that stand as well. However, the 6 philosophies that we are doing in this course, the 6 systems of philosophy that are part of this particular course, they are as such theistic philosophies. But still, before we begin, I want this general discussion, and I want all of you to actually contribute in today's session, and try to tell me as to why someone could either choose theism or atheism. Okay, so I'm not asking about your individual opinion. I'm just asking you as to why somebody may choose, or rather why somebody may have his orientation towards either theism or atheism. Come on, the forum is open. Can anyone tell me? Yes, raise your hand. Yes, loudly. Oh, so he's saying that someone in the family gets murdered. Basically, that means he's saying that unpleasant news which is there. Okay. So in this world we keep hearing a lot of unpleasant stuff. I'm just kind of generalizing what he has to say. Makes one feel that it doesn't seem that, someone is actually governing or in charge of things. That's what he's saying, right? Yeah, good. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so she's saying that, I'm just trying to paraphrase what you're saying. You're trying to say that people like to cling on. Okay, so this is actually the word which you're trying to say. Cling on. Hang on to some support system. And what better support system could be there than a god, who is kind of in charge of everything. So it seems that when one hangs on to that kind of a structure, one feels secure. So it's basically clinging on to a, I shall say, support system or something like that. Is that what you're saying, right? Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so he's saying that there are certain phenomena in the world not explained. So we attribute all that to the creator. Okay, so that means the creator model basically, where, yeah, that's what he's saying, where unexplained phenomena. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll just take hers. Yeah. Good, good. She's talking about tradition. Yeah, understood. So someone takes to atheism just because in the family people have been talking about it. So instead of really trying to think whether it is correct or no, they're just happy with that. Yes, you there. Yeah. Okay, sit down, sit down. So you're trying to say why somebody may go towards atheism, right? Yeah, it's actually a very important reason. I was actually looking for that. That means most people take to atheism also because of the bad behavior of the theists. I want to elaborate on this a little bit before we, take it ahead. Okay, meanwhile, I just want to know, should I try with that mic, the speaker, or it is not required? Maybe just once I will just try, and you can tell me whether it is needed. 1 second. Actually, this is too low. Hello. Yeah. So, should I try with it, or is it too loud? It's too loud, right? Yeah. Okay, fine. I am as such audible. Okay, fine. Yeah, okay. Just that the technology was there, I thought I'll try. Okay, I just want to elaborate a little bit on what she's saying, because historically, what the point that she said is actually so true. That if you see European history, for example, okay, we'll just go into it a little bit. We're just moving away from the philosophy to the history. If you see European history, up until the 15th century, let us say, Europe was completely faithful to the church and the Pope. You know that, right? That's history actually. Where whatever the Pope said, that's what all the kings and everyone had to obey. You understand? No one could go against the Pope and make any statement. I mean, and the Pope had rights to kind of give any kind of penalty to that person. This is actually European history. However, in the 15th century, when the revolution, the age of revolution began, people actually started going away from the church. It began with the Protestants. You understand this? How the Protestant thing came up? Protestant means, as it says, to protest against the Vatican and to, come up with a different version of religion. So, if you look at that a little bit, if you look at that history, so there was this person called as Martin Luther, who actually began the Protestant thing. And the reason is because of religionists only. Because if you see that reason, the Pope at that time, who was there in the 15th century, I think Pope Alexander the 14th or someone, they had instituted a rule that if anybody does any sin, they can come to the church and pay some money for different sins to get rid of that sin. So now, so basically the Vatican was collecting a lot of cash. And there are so many kind of amusing stories as well. There's a story of a group of bandits who actually robbed a bishop. And when the bishop was telling him that you're going to go to hell for this, the bandit said, well, we have already yesterday itself made advance payment for today's sin. So there's no chance we'll go to hell. So these are actually documented things in the 15th, 16th century. And Martin Luther was the person who led that entire revolution against the church, and he started Protestant thing. But even though he started Protestant, and Protestant religion took up in several places in Europe, over a period of time, it so happened, if you see again, 17th century, 18th century, if you read European history, when the, just about the time of the French Revolution, late 18th century, if some king in France, for example, would be a Catholic, then they would mark Protestants' homes, and overnight, they would eliminate them, and vice versa and all that. So basically what I'm trying to say is, in the name of religion, there would be a lot of violence that would be happening in Europe. That's actually one reason why, if you see again, towards the end of the, in the middle of the 19th century, when Charles Darwin, or when this, Nietzsche. I wonder if you've heard this name. This German philosopher called Friedrich Nietzsche. These guys, when they actually took very aggressive atheistic stands in their philosophy, it was also related in a great deal to the bad behavior of the theists. What they had seen in the name of God, what people were doing, put them off completely. Are you understanding this point? So this is actually a very important thing. Even today, if you see in today's world, there is a lot of violence that goes on. In fact, all the violence that is going on, at least it is in the name of God only. At least many times it seems like that, right? Like all the fight that's happening in Syria and so many other places, it's all in the name of God. So that's why people many times fear. So this is a very valid reason that she pointed out. Good. Any other point? Yeah. 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 Okay. Now, one second. I'll just take one by one. So he's basically saying that the books of religion, he kind of generalizing it by saying that books of religion generally seem fake to him. Okay, interesting. Good. Any other point?
Second point is all religions. There are many religions, according to Abrahamic religions, man is made up of sand, and according to pagan religions, not many Hindu or Buddha, man is created of God and with some energy or something.
I think you're talking about the contradictions in religion. Understood. Okay, fine. Leave that. So he's saying two things. Contradictions. Okay, interesting. Any other point? Anybody else? Yeah, last bench. You are very loud. I can't hear you. Oh, okay, okay. You are saying that the superstitious acts of. I think it's another example of bad behavior. As in, you're talking about the superstitions of theists, which promotes atheism. So that's what he's saying. Okay, great. Yeah. They take to theism, you're saying. Oh, okay, okay. She's talking about very interesting coincidences. Okay, that's good. Any other dramatically different reason? Yes, you? For what are you saying? So you are talking about atheism, huh? As lack of, okay, yeah, maybe, why not? Lack of awareness in general, she is saying, of religion, huh? Okay, oh, okay, okay, yeah, understood what you're saying. Okay, good. One second, I'll just take someone who has not spoken yet, in case if anyone is there like that, or I'll take these people once again. Ah, yeah, you there, third last bench, yeah. Just sit down, sir. You can sit down and talk. I don't mind. So you're saying that since I'm just trying to paraphrase what you're saying. You're basically trying to say that since we really cannot understand God with our limitations, is it right to question his existence? Maybe something like that. Okay. So basically, I think, yeah, I got your point. Putting it here. Okay, that's what she's saying. Oh yeah, last bench. For atheism. Oh, okay, okay. You're, okay, I think that's another example of clinging to support, where I don't want to work, so basically I put all the onus on God. Interesting. Someone who has not said anything. Yeah.
So religion can also be because sometimes, like Krishna, for example, people started believing in Krishna because of the Mahabharata. When they started
Okay, I understand what you're saying. She's saying that sometimes the books of religion could actually be more legitimate. Okay, I'm just taking everybody's points here. I got it. I understand which. Yes. Purpose of life. Great. Good. Thanks. Someone who has not said anything before. Okay, we'll just take last, second last, and last. Yeah. Go ahead. You only. You only. I understood. You are basically saying that the rational approach disproves God. Basically, that's what you're saying. Am I right? That's what you're saying. I understood. In one line, I am just putting your word. So you are talking about theism. What people, countries which have have lesser crime rate. Anyway, since you made this point, see, he's saying that countries with lesser number of thieves have lesser crime rate. I think what he's saying is mainly in the context of present European countries, because if you see present European countries, by and large, most of the European countries are, as such, the people in Europe today, as I see today, they are by and large atheistic in their view. It's a fact actually. I mean, if any of you have traveled to Europe, I have been, so I know for a fact. I mean, you can see that even on Christmas, you will see that hardly anybody enters the church. Churches are locked, and the fathers are on the street pleading someone to please walk in on 25th December. So you can see that if you travel to Germany, Switzerland, and several European countries. So he's basically saying that in many of these countries, lower crime rate has been reported. So he's saying atheism promotes lower crime, whereas theism promotes crime. This is interesting because there is also a lot of other research. Because there is something called as lies, damn lies, and statistics. I wonder if you have heard this term. What it means is many times with statistics you can prove anything in some way. Okay, but in any case there is some other kind of work as well, which says that those families with some concept of God in their life, be it whatever, tend to be more stable in their families. That means divorce rates and breakup of families is much more when this hypothetical God is not there in their life. Because so this is also statistics actually. So what I'm trying to say is that there are pros and cons of the same point. Okay, fine. So I think we just stop from here and we take this ahead. See, one thing I wish to say, if you look at what is being said over here, I wish to draw your attention to one very important point, and that point is that the same kind of reason can be used by someone to talk about theism or atheism. I want to tell you this. This is actually a fact, and that's why I took this exercise in this class itself. The same kind of reason a person may use, just like for example, if you see, we are talking here about people saying that there are coincidences, or there are things which someone was saying that there are so many things which cannot be explained, right, with our own rational view perspective, because of which a person takes to theism, whereas some others say that the rational approach favors atheism. Are you getting it? So as such, these two, the reason is apparently the same only in some way, but it is just that one is used over here and one is used over here. Okay, so similarly, even the books of religion, somebody may find the books of religion pretty rational, and somebody may find it totally fake. So again, if you see this is also a very similar reason. Are you trying to understand what I'm saying? That means one thing I want to tell you is, one major reason why a person may choose to be a theist or atheist is also because of that means it's a very personal thought process, because of which the way we have been brought up, the kind of friends, the kind of stuff we have read, our entire upbringing generally plays an important role in shaping our thought process. And that thought process could be doubted either here or here. You get it? It depends actually. Also, another important thing I want to tell you is that most people in the world, I'll just take a quick statistics here as well, but most people in the world are actually unsure whether certainly there is a God or certainly there is no God. They stand somewhere in the middle. Okay, just like I want to take this general opinion poll in the class, I don't want to ask you whether you belong here or here. That's something very personal. I'll not touch that. All I want to ask you is, how many of you are dead convinced about either of these options? Just raise your hand. Just so that we understand what is the general feel like. You know, I ask my question again. I'm repeating my question again. My question is, how many of you are dead convinced that either there is a God or certainly there is no God? And you know, there is absolutely no doubt about it. How many of you are like that? Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. Okay, so let's see in general how many. So I have not asked you whether you're here or here. That I'm not going to ask you as well. Okay, so this is approximately 25-30%. And believe me, in any random sample of population you will take, you might find this kind of response only. The reason is very simple, that most people tend to be unsure. And you know, that's a very large category which is in the middle. You know, who sometimes feel that maybe there is one, and sometimes they feel maybe there is none. This is actually a fact of life, which you can observe in any group of people that you take. Okay, so let's start with whatever we wish to say. So the topic today, there are actually two things that I wish to speak on. Both are from the Nyaya itself. One is the logic for theism, and the second is the purpose of life. So we'll go step by step. So the first thing, the logic for theism. Now, why are we talking about logic for theism? Let's be very clear. Because the 6 systems of Indian philosophy that I am dealing with, they support theism. So because they support theism, they also give their own rationale for theism. But at the same time, they're very open to discuss this point. You understood? That's why in India, see, one thing is there about Indian philosophy, which I think most of you will appreciate and which I really want to convey through this course. Indian philosophy never ever takes any extreme or exclusive stand on issues. I'll explain this in a minute. I hope you understand what do you mean by exclusive stand on issues. Like for example, if you see the Abrahamic philosophy, generally they take exclusive stand. Exclusive stand means, I'll just tell you in a minute what I mean by that. Like if you see Christianity, in Christian philosophy, at least this is how it was before the current, I mean, I'll tell you some history also behind that. But generally all the popes from Vatican, they have always said this, that unless someone accepts Jesus Christ as the only savior, you know, as the only person who could lead them to God, no matter what they do, they can never go to God. You understood? It's an exclusivist concept. That means if Jesus is not accepted by somebody, no matter what he does, there's no question only that he's going to go to heaven. It's finished. You get this point. That's why, I mean, even if you see the other Abrahamic understandings, like if you see in Islamic theology, they accept, if you see Islamic theology, they accept all the prophets. You understand what's a prophet? Prophet means a teacher. Like in Islamic, they also accept Jesus, they accept Moses, they accept everybody. But they say Muhammad is the last and the most important of the prophet. And unless you accept him, you know, you don't have a hope. Are you getting this point? If you see in general, that exclusivism is there in these places. But the Indian philosophy, you will see very surprisingly, there is never any exclusivism. That means from an Indian philosophy perspective, any of these philosophies, a person like Jesus Christ or Prophet Muhammad also can be a great prophet. But it will never say that only one person can be a prophet or there is only one way to reach the goal. Are you understanding this? So there are multiple yoga paths and you could adopt any way to reach your destination. You know, that kind of a thing is there. So I hope you understand this concept of exclusivism and inclusivism in general. That's also one reason why, I'll give a simple example, like Mahatma Gandhi, our father of the nation. he would speak that, Ishwar Allah Tere Naam, so he would say that you have so many names and I don't mind calling you that also. And this is in general acceptable by any person of Indian philosophy because the exclusive is simply not there. So there is no problem in calling God by a particular name. You understood? But those that tend to be exclusive in their approach, they would find it extremely difficult to adopt this. So this is another very interesting point, that this whole concept of secularism, if you see, we talk of secularism. What is secularism actually? Secularism means that, anyone can define secularism to me? Freedom to practice any religion. That means the separation of the state and the religion. Are you getting it? The separation of the state and the religion. This is mainly a European concept because in Europe, till the 16th, 17th century, the state was controlled by religion, church, right? That's why you read Galileo, all these people, when they had to say something which went against the church's teachings, the Pope would summon them and say that, how dare you say this? Because he was not allowed to say that. You understand the point? So at one point of time, they had to separate it out. So that's the concept of secularism. But the Indian philosophy is, if you actually read it, and if you see the concept, by definition, it allows various thought processes to exist and thrive. So because of which, secularism is never a challenge over here, as such, really speaking. Okay, in fact, I'll tell you honestly, if you see India today, we are having all these problems in the name of religion and casteism, also primarily because the British used these as tools to divide people and control them, which somehow our Indian politicians also have used in the last 70 years. If you actually look at it. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you see all our elections even now, it's all happening based on religion and caste. You understood? The caste, like if you see UP elections now, the way Mayawati and all these people will position their stands, it's all based on religion and caste. You understood? So somehow that is a tragedy in Indian, but again, this is a very new concept. If you see in India, I mean, the way it has happened, this is a legacy of the British. Though we are 70 years past our independence, in some aspects, apparently we are yet to be independent. We are following certain legacy system. So why I'm saying this is because the discussion of theism over here is a very open concept, and there is no branding anyone, and there is nothing like, okay, if you don't subscribe to the view, then you're burnt, or there is no such concept at all within the Indian system in general. So this is one thing I wanted to tell upfront. But still, the 6 systems of Indian philosophy that we are discussing are theistic, and they give their own logic for it. We will discuss that logic, and that would also address some of these points being mentioned here. Okay, so why somebody may believe in God, we have put some reasons out here already. Why somebody may not believe, well, so again, some reasons we have put, and they are coming here as well. Basically, unpleasant news I have put like this: how can a God exist allowing so much suffering and sin? Can you show me, or there's no proof of his existence? So both things are there. So let's see why one may adopt the theistic approach. So this is again as per the Indian philosophy, the Nyaya Shastra. So the Nyaya which is there, it gives mainly 2 reasons, just 2 reasons why one may choose the theistic approach. And let us see these 2 reasons, and that pretty much kind of addresses most of the stuff that we have put on the board. The first reason that it does give is the same old concept of the complexity of existence. That means the complexity of creation and the connection of that to the fact that how come such a complex stuff has come by chance. So I'll just put it up front. It's a very simple thing. If somebody takes a theistic approach, their general answer is that they generally look at the complexity of the world and try to see why this complexity wouldn't come all by itself. Okay. On the other hand, if someone takes this approach, they say that, well, it has come by chance. So why don't you accept it that way? So let's go into it one by one. So, the concept of creator. So the concept of creator is very simple, that creation implies creator. So this is the logic by which it works. Like there's a writing of Isaac Newton, where Newton gives again the same logic. Newton writes that at one point of time he had one of his friends who visits his home, and his friend preferred an atheistic approach to life. So Newton had a gyroscope at home. A gyroscope is a plastic model of a solar system where you move a crankshaft and things move around. So his friend asks Newton, where did you buy this from? And Newton says it just came up all of itself. So his friend says, come on, how can it come like that? Certainly you must have purchased it from some shop. So Newton said, no, believe me, it just came by itself. So his friend said, no, you're kidding. So Newton finally told him that you're convinced that the real solar system can come up by chance, whereas this plastic model, you're also convinced that it does need a creator. So that's some kind of a dilemma over here. So this concept of creation implies a creator is a very age-old concept which the Nyaya talks of and which is there. Now let's go into some details of it to understand. So the first thing we need to look at is, the first thing which I will use to speak here is that technology which is there, which we see in the world, like all of us are engineers, we are trying to build technology. Technology in general, many times or almost all the time, is actually a imitation of nature. You understood? That means generally good inventors are those who are very keen observers in the world. You know, when you observe things in the world, you get ideas about what you could actually do. Just like to give a very simple example, all our space technology of putting a satellite is nothing but a copy of original satellites that exist. Right? I mean, the whole concept of satellite, from where does it come? It comes from a simple idea that there is a moon, there is a satellite around the earth. Right? So that gives you a clue that if such things could exist in nature, then why can't we also create some satellites and put it out, and which will, you know, photograph or give us some stuff by which we can do some work here. Right? So all I'm trying to tell you is that generally what man creates is by observing nature. And we all know that when man has to create some technology, it's extremely complex. Just like satellites, we all know that if somebody has to actually monitor a satellite and do all this stuff, it's extremely complex. But on the other hand, you have natural satellites, which are unlimited times more complex than the ones that we put in orbits. You understand this point? So the logic here is that if anything that man creates, which is very complex, needs a creator, and which is nothing but a copy of certain original stuff in nature, which is actually much more complex than what man creates, you know, how come that has no creator? That's the logic over here. Okay, I'll just take you through a small video. So this is another example of another technology that we would be giving an example of. Just hold on a minute.
Kevlar is used in the this virus.
1 second. Okay, I'll not use the volume, I'll only speak. So basically what he says is that the spider's web is the strongest known material to humans. It's 5 times stronger than steel of the same dimension. And it's not only strong, but it's also so light that basically if you take a spider's web and move it around the earth 3 times, it would weigh 1 kilogram. So simultaneously it is light and it has strength. You know, that's the property of a spider's web. And all spiders create web from their mouth. You know, basically they create this web and right, they do their stuff of catching the insects. Now the thing is, scientists were always intrigued to try to understand what is the molecular structure of the spider's web. So basically there was this company called as DuPont which did some research into this, and they unraveled the mystery of the molecular structure of the spider's web, and that actually has made this the structure called as Kevlar. So he's going to show that. So this Kevlar is basically used in all bulletproof applications, right? So your bulletproof jackets, everything, it is made of this particular substance called Kevlar, which is nothing but a imitation of the molecular structure of the spider's web, and it is not as strong as a spider's web, as in of the same thickness. You understood? Because spider's web is just hardly some less than a millimeter across. So this is much thicker. Okay, so basically So that's what he's saying. So he's giving this as an example over here. So this Kevlar which is there, you see the substance over here. This is actually Kevlar. This is nothing but a copy of the molecular structure of the spider's web. So I hope the example is clear. So I'm just giving two examples to basically say the same thing, that technology which man creates, that's why, even all of you, if you have to be really good engineers, one important characteristic is that you should be good observers of nature. Yeah, because that gives good ideas as to what you could do. And it's not just these two examples, you could go on and on. Just like, I'll just take some other example. In the field of computer science, there is an entire domain that we call as artificial intelligence and neural networks. Have any of you heard of this? Neural networks, it's a very famous a branch or specialization in computer engineering. And neural network means what? You're basically trying to understand, actually we have not yet understood, the complexity of the human brain, and that network which is there is actually called as the original neural network, which you try to replicate via software and create a self-learning system in a computer. You understood? In fact, this is the in thing today. By the way, let me tell you, like you may have read in the news that several companies, IT companies are downsizing now on because they are going into automated technologies, because they want to create all these artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural network technologies. So what is this neural network ultimately? It's nothing but trying to understand, just like a human brain, it learns itself, right? A human brain learns and picks up itself. So if you had software that can learn itself and make decisions, then so many of the routine things for which a man is needed is substituted by a machine. Are you understanding this? Yeah, so I think more than this I will not be able to say, but the point is, in the entire research of supercomputers and this domain, the brain only has inspired, right? So the brain, so the brain is just amazing because it can, this is a book, this person who says, he's written a book called The Brain. So he says the human brain is made of 1 trillion brain cells and each one is more powerful and sophisticated than computers. So all these examples I'm just trying to give to say that in technology we create various products which are actually in some way imitation of what is there in nature, but the product that we create is not as complex as what is naturally there. That is much infinite times more complex. We just take a minuscule aspect of that and we imitate it. And for what we do, we know how much brain goes behind it. Okay, so that's the logic over here. So now when you see the universe itself, there is a lot of, so the thing is, there is a lot of order and arrangement. So if you see the word cosmos, it basically means an orderly, harmonious, systematic universe, right? At every step of the universe. I mean, if you look into it very deeply, whether at the macroscopic level of how the earth is tilted, or whether how water freezes, if you see every aspect of life in this world, it is created in a way so as to enable life to exist. You understood? See, generally when someone doesn't wish to accept, or I mean, what is the opposite of this theory? The opposite of this theory is, well, everything comes, so basically if you see the theory that everything comes by chance or everything comes by itself, in that one challenge is, if you see in the world, when everything comes by chance, at the top level there are connections. Like this is what someone told as actually coincidences. I don't know who said that, but coincidences. I'll just give you a simple example. Just like in this world you see trees and bees. Trees and bees. Now the thing is that they don't exist. Both are dependent on each other. That means who ensures pollination takes place? Bees. If you didn't have bees, and if pollination doesn't take place, is there the next flowering plant that comes up? No, we all know it. No, right? And similarly, as far as bees are concerned, without trees and without flowers and without honey, bees don't exist. So it's a very simple example that bees and trees, as such, it looks that there is no connection between them. And when you say that, when we talk about the chance theory, that how these things have come about by itself, how is it that at the top level there is such a connection that one without the other actually doesn't survive. Are you getting my point? Now, this is not one example. If you see all the species and the world around us, we will see that there is an amazing connection in ecology between every species. And except the human species, by the way, the human species is the only species which is said, even if you remove him from the world goes on well. But all the other species have some important contribution in ecology, which we are now understanding, because in the last 100 years, in our thirst for industrial development, we have actually put all species at threat of survival. Correct? We all know that every species is under threat of survival because we have taken over all the resources of the world. And we are facing problems also because of that. Not that we are not. Right? Climate and so many other problems, we are actually severe problems. I mean, because all this is very recent stuff. Last 100 years, our work, human beings, what we have done. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the order and design at the highest level is so complex that it seems that it's all designed so that they help each other. You understood? So we'll give some more examples as we go by. But so basically, yeah. So again, so now several of you must have heard about this theory of Big Bang. Now, I don't think you have formally studied that in physics, because I don't think it was there in your syllabus ever. But still, some of you out of interest may have read it. Now again, if you look at the Big Bang theory itself, now if you see this, okay, I'll show you why I made this slide. It is just to say that anything that comes out of chaos is by and large never organized. So that's what this argument is. So please remember this, that even the encyclopedia today says that there is no theory, forget universe, forget Milky Way galaxy. There is no theory of the origin of solar system that is having acceptance among scientists, because all of them have improbable assumptions. Everything is improbable assumptions. Because if you see the Big Bang itself, it begins with the concept of a point of infinite mass and zero volume, right? Infinite energy which explodes. So basically, from that point itself, to justify the existence of that, it is as difficult or as tough as talking about the existence of God in terms of how such an entity exists. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So this is why I'm saying that even if, just like somebody will ask a theist, who created your God, the question over here also as to who created that point lands at the same place, which is question mark. No answer, basically. This is why I told you that for both these approaches, the reasons which are there are pretty similar. Just like somebody may be an atheist saying that I cannot see God or I don't have a proof. The theist may say I have no proof of this point, because that point is not even accepted by physics and mathematics. So how do I accept it? Even from that perspective. Are you getting my point here really? Yeah? Now my point, not that point. Yeah? So similarly, if you see the model of life, how life comes. So there is a very famous guy called Richard Dawkins. I don't know whether any of you have read his books or anything. He's currently existing. He's a British biologist, physicist. He calls himself militantly atheistic. That's his personal opinion. But he writes a book called as Selfish Gene. And in fact, this is the current view in science as to how because see, Big Bang only says that from the point that exploded, the universe came up. Then in the universe, how did life come? So that's a question again. You understood? How does life come? So if you see, this is the stuff that people talk about. So first of all, in the book Selfish Gene, if you read the preface itself, he writes that this book should be read as if science fiction, because there is no proof for what is being said. But still, he promotes a particular thought process. He says that the Earth's original atmosphere was of carbon dioxide, ammonia, water. Through energy supplied by sunlight, lightning or volcano eruptions, these atoms and compounds rearrange themselves into amino acids and protein-like compounds. Then by accident, a remarkable molecule that had the ability to produce itself was formed by an accident. Similar molecules clustered together, and then again by another highly improbable accident, they wrapped a protective barrier of other protein molecules around themselves as a membrane. Thus it is claimed the first living cell generated itself. So this is just one sample from his book, but if you generally read the whole book, the language of the book is pretty similar. And there are many people who have calculated what is this probability. It is 1 upon 10 raised to 40,000 plus. So to give you a parallel, it is something like you take a, I mean, people have given a parallel to it. The parallel is, if you bring a monkey in front of a computer typewriter, ask him to press random buttons, what is the possibility or probability that Shakespeare's Hamlet will come out? See, there is a probability. Please remember, it's not that there is no probability. There is a probability that the monkey will sit in front of the laptop and press random buttons, and what comes out is the Hamlet of Shakespeare. That is the probability of this particular thing. It's the same probability. So please remember, if that monkey example sounds very ridiculous, even this should sound ridiculous, because probability wise it is the same. And people are talking only about probability over here. They are not talking about anything else. Are you understanding this point? So why I'm saying this is, I mean, this is basically the answer in, okay, pay attention here. This is the answer to this point that the rational approach which people talk of, from the theist perspective, it shouldn't be taken too seriously. As in, though people say many things like this, how rational it is? Well, it is as rational as the monkey producing the Hamlet. So, you have to stick to that then. You have to say that, okay, it did happen. So you accept that. Yeah. So this is the first theme in general which the Nyaya uses. The Nyaya, and what is this theme? The theme is that the creation is extremely complex, and not only it is complex, it's designed to allow life to exist. It's designed to allow life to exist. Okay. So one example is given in the Nyaya. The example is that, suppose if someone goes home, like let us say most of you are hostelites, and if a hostelite goes home, you open the door and you go and you see on your dining table there is food. You understand basically that your mom has kept food over there. You don't come to the conclusion that just because I am hungry, food came over there. You understood? No, this is also one philosophy. It's called as, I forgot the name, okay, I'm sorry, I just forgot that. Anthropomorphic principle or something. There is this principle which people use in science which says that because we need all these things, everything is there. Okay, it is like saying that because I'm hungry, the food is there on the table. You understood? Because if you see, the connections are like that. I'll give another example of connection before I just go ahead. This example is that of why, for example, in India, the cows were considered very important. Okay, to give you this example, you need to understand that among all mammals, the ratio of the nipples of the breast of the female to the number of children produced is 2:1, except the cow and buffalo, which is 4:1. So this is a very interesting point if you really think about it. It's only the cow and buffalo. If you have ever seen the cow's udder, it has 4 nipples that come out, and it gives only 1 calf at a time. Right? So basically, and it's also noted that a cow and a buffalo, even today, it can give anywhere between minimum of 5 liters to an upper limit of even 25 liters of milk a day, if you have ever seen these animals pretty closely. And it's also common sense that that much amount of milk is not just meant for the calf. So there is some excess stuff that is kept over there, which is what always humans have used, world over. You understand what I'm saying? So this is again another example of something somebody needs. One species needs something, it is there in another species. Just like we gave the earlier example of bees and trees. The trees have to be pollinated, and there are bees which do that, and that is the bees' food as well. Or like if you remember the other examples that we gave of the shark and that small fish, they all exist mutually. One's food is in another's tooth. So basically, yeah, so that's the connection that exists in nature. You see this? So all this nature is pointed to as examples here to indicate this. So since I just said about the cow and buffalo, another important issue I would like to raise over here. Again, this is in connection with ecology. I'm sure most of you have heard, or you must have read, that in today's world it has become very fashionable to talk about organic food. In case you ever heard about it, right? People actually talk a lot about going organic. Now, why are people talking about it? And what is the history of this? Please remember, world over till the 19th century, sure, certainly in India and even in other places, the manure used in the fields everywhere was basically the urine and the dung of the cow, bull, buffalo, etc. Right? That is considered natural. If you see history again, it's post World War II that in World War II there were many companies that manufactured chemicals for ammunition. But then after the United Nations came up and said that we will not have too many wars, they wanted to divert their business because industries were there manufacturing chemicals. So they decided to move over to agriculture. So chemicals that were funding bombs now were diverted. So you had this entire pesticide concept that came up, and chemicals, fertilizers, right? And that's what the challenge everybody is talking today. It's just like it's well known in India, for example, you buy grapes. Most of the time it is soaked in pesticide and it's considered cancerous. I mean, you can actually get cancer in today's India by eating grapes because of the amount of pesticide that it carries. It's all over the news if you read this stuff of the discussion between organic and inorganic food. Why I'm telling you this is because man needs to do agriculture, because otherwise how will you produce your food? And to produce food you need manure. And nature has provided animals that give out urine and dung, which is the best manure for your fields. So again there is a connection. I'm just trying to tell you that how at the highest level all these connections exist. So the whole question is, if everything has come by chance, like all these theories that we see, then how come all these connections got established? That's what Nyaya is asking. Okay, so going on ahead to another thing, of course, I'm just so this is another point that Nyaya uses, that the laws which are there indicates creator or maintainer of laws, but I'll not go too much into that. This is another thing, order and design. So this briefly I had already spoken about it previously when I spoke about Darwinism, that every species is extremely complex. And please remember, for example, if you see the giraffe, it's a very interesting creature because of whatever its specifications are, and also because fossil records show no giraffe with short necks. Either there are deers or there are giraffes with long necks. So, and also that whole concept of Darwin where the deer jumps and elongates its neck to become giraffe is questioned severely today, because by jumping, how come your heart and everything grows so much? And so this is extremely complex to defend. So even scientifically, many of the theories that people talk as rational are under question. This is why I was making this point that many times a person may choose, for example, not only a theistic model but even an atheistic model, not so much because of certain proofs but because of certain experience. That's why it's also important sometimes to read the life of Darwin, the way he underwent his his experience with the church, and what actually happened, because of which why he felt very strongly, I need to come up with something totally different from this stuff. You understood? So that orientation is also very important as to why one promotes certain theories. But this point here is very simple, that order and design in species. Now this is another very interesting bird. I had shown you this in my PPT earlier. This bird, please remember, weighs 3 grams. It's an extremely minute, very tiny bird. 3 grams means you can imagine what it is. Hardly anything, not even the weight of our ring. 3 grams, and this flies across the Gulf of Mexico, and this basically flies about 1000 miles, and it flies in one stroke 6 million beats. Computer simulations say that it's very difficult to put so much energy in the body of a 3-gram bird for it to beat 6 million times. How much energy is required for that job and how it does that. So it's a whole. So of course there is a whole thing, like this bird, what it does is, before it again starts to fly, it increases its weight to 9 or 10 grams, and when it reaches the destination it's exactly 3 grams. So these kind of things. So again if you see, for example, a camel and a desert are very intrinsically connected. The design, for example, the camel is the only animal with transparent eyelids, so that inside, so that no dust enters it, because nobody else needs to live in the desert, only the camel needs. Of course nowadays because of oil we are also living in the desert, but otherwise traditionally nobody lived in the desert. It has transparent eyelids and it can store this much amount of water. The whole point is there is a connection, and this connection is what we observe everywhere. Okay, So the logic used in Nyaya is the logic of unseen proven by the seen. You understand what is unseen proven by the seen? Unseen proven by the seen means, like the Gita talks about it, just like a necklace is there, what do you see in the necklace? Pearls. You see these beads. What is it that you don't see? The thread. So the thread is not seen. Okay, the thread is never seen. By definition, a thread is never seen. So that is the logic of theism presented in the Nyaya. Okay. Yeah. So the next question is but still this problem remains. If there is this God, how the hell do we see him, or how is he seen? So again, the Nyaya talks about it by saying that before we talk about seeing, there are two questions to be understood. First is that many things are actually understood in the world by what we call as cause and effect. Okay, cause and effect. So I'll tell you what is cause and effect theory. Cause and effect theory means there are so many things in the world which we believe in by seeing the effect. You understood? We believe in the cause by seeing the effect. Any quick example, like an atom? All of us believe that an atom has electrons and all this stuff. Has anyone seen an electron? No, you don't see an electron. Now why do you believe in it? Because of certain Rutherford, that some gold, what is that called? That gold foil experiment, correct. Yeah, I forgot the technical name of that. So you understood, it's an inference. So that means you believe in the cause because of the effect. It's not that you see the cause, but still you accept it. So this is the logic here. And second thing is, this is an even more important reason. By definition, any creator is by far superior to the created. You understand this? Like for example, human beings have created a computer. So we are much more complex than the computer. Correct? So by definition, a God is much more superior or complicated than the creation. So now how do you understand someone superior to you? So an example is given in Nyaya, that suppose somebody wants, let's say one of us decides that I want to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I want to really see whether he's there or he's just a character on television. So let us say you go down to 7 Racecourse Road and say that I want to see him. Most likely security guard will just throw us out saying that why you want to see, for what business you have. So you cannot see. So the question is, when can you see? The question is, when you do something great. Let's say you won an Olympic gold medal, because India doesn't win much gold medals. So let us say someone won an Olympic gold medal, then perhaps it may be easy to see the Prime Minister. He may come to reward you. But without doing anything, if you say that I want to see the Prime Minister, nobody is going to entertain that concept. You understood? So so the Nyaya uses the idea that if you want to see the king, you need to do something great so that the king will give you his audience. Similarly, the idea is, simply if somebody says that I want to see God without doing anything in that context, how can you demand that? So that is said to be an irrational, claim in that sense. Yeah, cause and effect. So cause and effect is, this is an example of cause and effect, like we are just showing a puppet show. So puppet is the effect and there is a cause, that is a string. For an arrow shot, there is a cause, the bowman. Right? So that is the theory of cause and effect. And this is like, if somebody wants to see the president, this is some very old president of the United States. I don't know, who anybody knows who's this? I forgot. Jimmy Carter, yeah, old president. Maybe I should put now, I was not sure, whether to put Obama or whether to put that Trump or Hillary Clinton, who are fighting right now. So I took some very old example of United States president. Yeah, Jimmy Carter. Okay, good, thanks. Yeah, so this is the logic. Okay, so what we have discussed till now, before we go to the second point, Nyaya, as I told you, speaks of arguing two reasons in favor of a creator, and the first one was basically the design principle. This is the first one, design principle. And at this point, I only wish to say that this design principle is still a challenge, because we do see that several theories that talk about things coming up by itself or things coming without that have also severe challenges. So basically, that's how it is. Is that okay? Yeah. Any quick comment on this? Anybody would like to ask anything? Yeah, I think you had something to ask, Jose. Yeah, good. Go ahead. Yeah, anything. Specifically with design, it will be good actually. One sec. Can you be a little loud? Even I have to hear, and my camera has to hear you. Yeah. The God? Leave that right now. That's. Yeah. Yeah. No, one sec. I'll just take his point a little bit. First of all, the formal definition of atheism doesn't go with that. The formal definition of atheism, if you've ever read a person like Richard Dawkins, what he says, you know, you understand that no, that's not what they say. They're very clear on it. Now, this concept about what is the nature of that God, that's a totally different thing. We are not even addressing that right now. That we will talk about it later. I understand that different people have different ideas of God which totally contradict each other. We will deal with that question later. That question is not today's question. Today's question is not that. But that part I accept. That what you're saying is 100% acceptable. That people have by and large such different conceptions of God, it becomes. So we are going to talk of that when we come to Vedanta. The Vedanta talks about all the conceptions of God that are ever possible in the world. And it discusses and tries to give one picture of that. We'll be talking of that when it comes to it. So that's a whole different topic. But as such, strictly speaking, atheism doesn't accept any creator or a God at all. That's how it stands. Yeah. Any other point anybody has to say? Someone was saying something when, I think, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah. No, it's not like that actually. The atheists, what is their logic? I understand what you're saying. But the atheists, their logic is, the logic in atheism is what is called as null hypothesis. You know what is null hypothesis? Anybody knows what is null hypothesis in science? You seem to know. Tell me what is null hypothesis? What is null hypothesis in science? No, he nodded his head quite vigorously. So. Yeah. Yeah, he's right actually. See, that means the idea of null hypothesis is unless something is proven, it's not accepted. That's null hypothesis. No. They are not trying to prove the same thing. They are trying to prove that they are trying to give certain reasons as to how everything came. Because see, ultimately as man and woman, whatever, as human beings, we do feel that we should give reasons for why certain things have happened. Like I'll give a very simple example. Darwinism as such, if you see, even if you just go to Google right now and you type, is Darwinism true? You will see more sites explaining in great detail why Darwinism is a failure concept. But still, why still we persist teaching it in textbooks? Because that's the only model we have where human beings are seeing something and trying to understand how things have come up. Uska alternative hi nahi hai. So you don't want to talk of all the metaphysical concept of God. So you basically stick to it, you cling to it literally, even though it has its fallacies. So that's how it is actually. Yeah. So I agree with that. Okay. Yeah. Last point before I go ahead. Last point. Yeah. 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 We'll come to that. Nyaya talks about it. We'll come to that. This we are going to talk about in next session. Hold on. Yeah, so I'll take this ahead now. So this one question is pending still. Who created God? So of course, as such, of course, that's not an answer. But still, I'm just initially the only argument that I made at this point is just like you're asking me the question, who created God? Even in the current theories where we are trying to explain how things have come up, the question that how that point came up is having the same complexity. Are you understanding? It has the same complexity. So it stays at that level, but that does not answer who created God. So we will come to that later. We'll come to that in the next session. Okay, now let's go ahead. The second reason that the Nyaya uses in order to describe, in order to justify theism, is about what they call as the principle of, should I say karma or should I say, it's actually karma only. That is, see, the principle is this. The principle is the reality of the world is such that everybody is born with a different starting point in the world. You understood this? We generally say all human beings are equal. That is kind of more, a statement in terms of law or something. But actually, if you see, people are not born equal. As in, everybody is born, like, all of us, like if you see education, what is education? What is the definition of education? Education in English comes from a Greek word edukari, which means to bring out what is within you. So the whole idea is you should have something within, first of all. Something within as in some basic skill set. Either you should be an intellectual so that you can be made into a scientist, or you should have some musical sense, you can become a musician, or you should have some artistic ability where you can become a painter, a carpenter, a sculptor. Something to do in this world. There is a basic talent which should be there in a person. Are you understanding? That's what sometimes we call also in our Indian system as national talent search, to see where talent is and try to, get it out. You understand what I'm saying? So the point really is that everybody is born different with different kind of, like just like for example nowadays they say, just like it is not that by practice alone, let us say we invest a lot of money into athletics or something, whether we could beat somebody like Usain Bolt, let's say for example, whether we could do that. There is one theory that floats around that says that the African Americans or the Afro Caribbeans, those of that black race, they generally, genetically, they have certain superiority, it seems, because of which they generally tend to do well in all these running games, compared to even these white guys. What to speak of the brown ones that we are, we are not yet started competing actually, so we don't even know whether, we stand a race against these people. You understand what I'm saying? So that means the second point is that people in the world are born with different talents, and the whole question is, how does that happen? How does that happen? That means, okay, so the current understanding that we have is it is by chance. That means why is somebody born in the house of Ambani and somebody else is born in the railway station? So why is it? If you ask this question, our current understanding is just as random, no real reason. Just somehow it happened that, somebody was born here, somebody was born here. Finished, that's it. There's nothing. But Nyaya uses this also as an argument, that people are given different opportunities right from beginning of their life to flourish. And that also is an indication that someone supersedes or ensures that people are put in those situations. That's the argument used by Nyaya to defend theism. So let's look at this. I'm not sure if she's beautiful, but we are using her as an example of that. You may accept or not. So maybe you can blame me for not finding a better candidate over here. But somebody beautiful, somebody may not be. Somebody is handsome. Again, I'm not sure if he is, but somebody may not be. Somebody is born very rich. Somebody is not. Somebody is intelligent in general. Somebody is not. Somebody doesn't have the brain substance. I'll tell you honestly, I'm currently working here as a dean of exams, and I have been a head of department for 6 years in this college. Routinely, so many times, so many parents have come to me after 2-3 years of their son or daughter's engineering, saying that the boy or the girl is just not fit in this. They spend a lot of money and they have understood it's just not meant for that person. I mean, just today there was one cancellation of admission. One lady, her son was admitted in this college for 3 years, and he was not interested in engineering from the day one. His parents forced him into it. He wanted to do Film and Television Institute. Sorry. So finally his mother understood that, I should put him there. After spending 10 lakhs and doing so many stuff that they did here, they took the boy away. Basically the point is that all of us are born with certain skill sets, and we will flourish where we are naturally adapted to. You cannot change. This is called as, you cannot change your original nature too much. Nobody can change that. You can make a fool for some time. You can fool some people for some time. But ultimately what you're good at, only there you can flourish. Okay, so So that's fine. So, somebody is, yeah. So the whole point is we choose many things in life. Like we choose a job, we choose a wife or a husband, we choose the car, we choose the apartment. We don't choose parents, we don't choose the way we look, we don't choose our intelligence, we don't choose our basic skill sets that are ingrained in us. Right? So this is the argument used in Nyaya to talk about existence. This is the second argument. Okay. So we'll be talking about this also in greater detail later. Yeah. Okay, so now the question is, okay, now when we talk about God, so this question is something that we are going to talk in great detail later. How do people define God? So as he rightly pointed out, people give different definitions of God. So that is another challenge. So let us see some broad definitions today. I'm not really going into this topic too much today. This will come much later. But we are just seeing some very broad definitions. So for example, some people say God is light. So this is again an idea. Or God is energy basically. Or God is nature. So this is also another idea. There was this very famous philosopher, German philosopher called Nietzsche. He said God is dead. This was his concept. It's a very famous thing. God is dead by Nietzsche. In fact, he went so far that there was a church in Germany where he was staying. Outside the wall of the church, he wrote, God is dead, signed Nietzsche. And it so happened that in some years he died, and that father of that church was very upset with him. So he went out, and below that he wrote, Nietzsche is dead, signed by God. He just did. So that's kind of a little controversial, but the true story. Okay. So just to say that people have different conceptions about who God could be. We will come to the concept. People also say this, everyone is God. Like I have seen, for example, people wearing t-shirts in India, sometimes that says that I was an atheist until I realized that I am only God. So it's a very popular slogan that sometimes, have any of you seen those t-shirts? No one has seen that? You have seen that? Yeah. Okay. So there are people who wear that t-shirt around. So very interesting t-shirt again. That everyone is. So generally, okay, so this is just a comic thing. Okay, so I think I don't have to explain this too much. You are not from India? You are from India only, okay. Is there any foreign student here who doesn't? Okay, I think so. Everybody understand what I'm trying to show. No, because I showed it in another class where there were some foreign students. They didn't understand actually what is Hema and Hema. So they didn't really understand what that is. So generally, if you see world over, now this is a very broad definition that I'm using today. We will come to more precise definitions much later. But generally, the Nyaya Shastra uses God as someone who is a source, proprietor, enjoyer, and controller broadly. I'm just looking at very basic definitions today, and we will elaborate this much later, a little later. A source, as in, just like we all know that source is a very simple concept that everyone has a source. So you go on, and somewhere you stop. At the point you stop is the highest source. And that source is defined as God in this definition. Okay, so this basically is about the same argument of the, the logic of the hen and the egg. Right, all of you know from where did it come. There was one student who argued with me a lot saying that it is now scientifically proved that the hen only came first. Yeah, it's proved, the hen came first. That's interesting proof. Because by definition, a hen comes from an egg. So that's where you're stuck again. So anyway. Okay. Another definition is as a proprietor. Proprietor as in, the master and owner of everything. This definition, just a small story about this definition. So this is a story from Akbar Birbal folk tales. So as you know, Akbar would put many challenges to Birbal. So one day Akbar is asking Birbal, who is great, me or God? So he wanted to kind of corner Birbal, because if he says God is great, then it's apparently an insult to Akbar, and if he says Akbar is great, then it's like a, questioning God. So Birbal, as usual, with his wit and humor, he basically says, you're only great, Bacha, you're only great. So he says, what do you mean? I'm greater than God? He says, yes, of course you are, because you can throw somebody out of your kingdom. God cannot, because everything is his kingdom. So you're great, because you can do something that he cannot. He used that as a logic to tell, that was more like it's a folk tale that talks about it. But the concept is there, God as a proprietor, as a owner of everything. This is another joke, I'll just leave this mother-in-law, daughter-in-law stuff. Short of time. Enjoyer. So enjoyer concept is again, it's a concept by says that God is defined by definition as someone who is an independent enjoyer. I hope you get the concept of independent enjoyer and a dependent enjoyer. Just like in this world we see that if suppose there is an organization, the owner of the organization is the independent enjoyer, right? The employees are dependent enjoyer. They enjoy when this fellow enjoys, as in he gets a lot of wealth. If he doesn't get wealth, then they are in trouble, basically. So that's the concept here of an enjoyer. And then final definition is that of a controller. And this logic is used to say that, for example, as humans, even though all of us like to control, in fact, there is nothing as intoxicating as the ability to control. You know, once this Pervez Musharraf, the former dictator of Pakistan, was asked a question, you know, what is it that you liked best in your tenure? He said, the ability to control. You know, the ability to control. That ability to control is an extremely intoxicating effect it has. You know, the ability to want to be the controller. You know, you say something and things happen like that. But we all know that our own bodies, most of it, you know, we just don't control. Like, if you see the details of the human body, we all know that it's so complex that we just don't even know what's going on inside. So what to speak of that? So we at least know that we are not the controller of this system. You know, leave aside anything else. Anyway, so these are some things about the definition. So anyway, so Nyaya concludes with this question. With this we end the first topic for today's class, which says that the two fundamental questions that a person should get when you see any complicated object is who is the creator and what is the purpose. Okay, that means any complex object, let us say this is having some complexity, this LCD projector, it has a creator Sony and it has a purpose to project. Okay, and the creator and purpose are connected. That's why someone said this, I don't know who said this, someone said theism is connected to purpose of life. It is indeed true, because that connection has to be there. You understood the point? Because that's how the philosophies start actually. They start talking about purpose of life. So these two questions. So the thing here is anything complex in our existence has these two things. We have never seen anything very complicated that has come about without a creator and without a purpose. You know, so similarly with the universe. So now we go on to the second part. So I again start with a very small interaction with all of you to try to find out an answer to this question as to the purpose of life. Okay, so the question is very simple. The question is, what is actually the purpose of life? Now, this is a question that philosophers talk about. So that's why we are starting with this question. Because Nyaya talks about it. Nyaya talks about the purpose of life. So what is actually the purpose of life? I hope this question is clear. When I say purpose of life, I'm not asking what is the your goal in life. Like somebody may say, you know, my goal is to do MS from Stanford University and get placed in Microsoft. That may be your individual goal as an individual. You know, that's a very, that's not the purpose of life in general. The point is why life itself. Why is it that we are all born, we grow, we go to school, we earn degrees, you know, we marry or whatever, we have kids and we again send them to school to repeat the same old thing. So why do we do all this? Right? This is a simple question. What is the purpose? Any response? What do you think is the purpose of life? Yeah. He's saying that to see God is the purpose of life. So anyway, I'm not sure whether, okay, fine, I'll take it up. Anybody else with some other reason as to why do you, what is the purpose of life? Why is life there? I mean, think differently. To continue reproduction. So he's saying the purpose of life is reproduction. Yeah, I understood. I appreciate that point. See, one thing is there. In this course, we really want everyone to contribute and to really think. You know, the whole goal of the course is to make you thinker. So please note, next time, next class or next Tuesday, we're going to have a test. The test is an open book test. So whatever material I'm going to post today, tomorrow on this site of mine, you will have to, you can bring that here. I mean, you can access that through a laptop, through a mobile phone or whichever device you wish to. So I'm not going to, I don't really wish that you have to buy heart anything. So you could keep this material with you. But there will be questions that will make you think or, you know, where we'll ask you to think a little bit, right? So there is a test next time. Yeah, yeah, to reproduce. That's his point. So purpose of life is reproduce. That means basically he's saying the purpose of life is to do self-preservation. You know, to preserve your species. Actually, I'll tell you in one sense. In many senses, this is true actually, because everybody wants to preserve their whole, you know, their species and everything. They are interested. People are interested to preserve their race. Good. Any other purpose of life? Huh? To create change, he's saying. To create a revolution. Shall I take it? You know, kind of something more. Because change is a little bit. Any other purpose of life? Yeah, that is to I'm just trying to think of a better word. Okay, fine, I'll take it as it is. I was looking for a better synonym, but I didn't get. Anybody else? Purpose of life? No, the purpose. Do you all, for all of you, these are the purposes? To see God, to reproduce, to revolt, and to fight oneself. I think at least some of you like to reproduce. Okay, anybody else? With any other purpose? Yes? To contribute. That means before we die, somebody should say that at least this person came to the world, something he or she did. You know, not that he was a big burden to the world. Nobody will like that. Good. To contribute. Anything else? To struggle. I think that's a very practical point. You know, because the world is actually a struggle. So he brought out a very practical point, saying that the purpose of life is to just struggle. You know, to go through this whole thing, you know, right from kindergarten, you know. No, people struggle. I mean, the society I live in nowadays is such foolishness. There are kids of 5th standard, 6th standard. I mean, I know there are at least 3, 4, 8th standard boys in my building who, you know, they have a morning tuition, they have day school, evening they go for an IIT coaching class. They come back at 11:30. I don't know why the hell they're doing that. Their parents have forced them to struggle. From class 8, struggling like this. From morning 6 they wake till 11:30 they're busy. No life. Just studying to get into IIT. Great. So he's actually right. Many people their whole purpose of life is to struggle only. This is very practical. Enjoy. Yeah, that's great. I like this word. In fact, that's where my answer is. So I halt at this point and say that the actual purpose of life, I want to use a little milder word than enjoy. I would use the word to be happy. See, believe it or not, the purpose of life is to find happiness. See, even in all these things, if you see, they are actually looking for happiness. Some person looking for happiness, struggling in contributing, you feel a self-worth, you know, there is an ego that is being satisfied. That मैंने कुछ किया दुनिया के लिए. Yeah, seriously. To revolt, to make the world a better place to be in. So, there is a happiness. Of course, see God. Reproduce also, obviously, there is a lot of happiness in that. To have a family. No. Family is obviously, you know, a source of happiness. So, all these happiness. Anybody else have anything? Some raise of hand I saw here. Yeah? Huh? Legacy. I think legacy is the word. Yeah, legacy. I understand legacy. Contribute, revolt. इसमें आता है actually. It's a continuation of this. You contribute to create a legacy. It's all related to being happy. See, my point is very simple. Any effort in the world. Now, one second. If you were told, guaranteed, that in this pursuit you would never get an iota of happiness, most people wouldn't do it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let's say someone is getting married, and somehow, you know, someone comes to know, let us say, and he tells him that this marriage is not going to work, it's just going to make life hell for you. You would not want to go into it. You know, why enter hell? You know, rather be happy. Or if suppose you enter a college and somebody told you in this college you are never going to study well, or this college is not the right place to study at all fundamentally, then you wouldn't really want to do it. So my point is, our pursuits in the world are generally in line towards happiness only. Anyway, looking for that. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. Good. Very good point. Good point. Good point. Actually, happiness is never a, it's never a result. It is actually the journey. Like to tell you, let's say someone has a child. The process of raising that child is that process of happiness. It's not that at one point the child has passed out from the college and come and that time you become happy. It's never like that. That process only is happiness. That's correct. That's correct actually. But the point is, anything that we do, in that process only I'm saying, in that process also, we are looking for pleasure only, right? That means, for example, see, whenever you do something with an idea that what you're doing and the goal are different, then there is problem. I'll give a simple example. Let's say you're doing engineering. Seriously speaking, unless you actually love the discipline of engineering that you're doing, it's simply a hell. The experience is a hell. Because if you don't like what you're doing fundamentally, the journey only is hell. But many times what happens, people undergo this journey as a struggle, thinking that at the end I will get an IT job and I will be happy. But that is actually, that is not the right way to look at it. So ideally, education for example, it is supposed to be such that you take up a discipline which you enjoy studying. The process of studying itself is fun. And then automatically you get a job, you get money, they are byproducts. That's actually how it is supposed to be. She's right. So happiness is in the journey. It is not in the, there is nothing like the end which you call as happy. But my underlying theme is, in life, whatever we are doing, we do things only, we are supposed to rather do things only which we actually really enjoy. Because once that is there is no other problem. You understood, na? Like I will tell you one thing. Do you know this, that India produces more engineers than China and United States put together? You know that? In India there are 16 million engineers that come out. 16 lakh, sorry. 16 lakh engineering seats are there in India. Understood? So every year 16 lakh engineers are produced. In USA and China put together, that number is much lesser. Does that mean that they produce less quality of engineers than us? No. In fact, our Indians also, when they go there, they do better. Why? Because anybody who studies there knows this fact, that there, anybody who comes to college is extremely interested in studying. If some American has taken admission in a engineering college, he actually wants to be an engineer. You understood? He's perhaps taken a loan and he has come. He's really interested to be. So he really comes out something good. You understood? So this is one thing that we have to really, I mean, as a country, we have to actually look at it, where we all keep doing things that we don't like just because somebody told us to do, and that is one big problem actually, because of which, we just remain frustrated in life. I think somebody is for me, looking for me. क्या हुआ? ठीक है, मैं आता हूँ. ठीक है, बस 15 मिनट में आता हूँ. Yeah, so that's a good point. So basically happiness is the journey of life. And that's what we are actually supposed to be looking for. Okay? That's what we're supposed to be looking for. Whether we're actually looking for it or not, it's a different thing. But in fact, all these things that we're looking for, it's actually connected to it. That's what I would like to argue and begin. Is that okay? Is that by and large logical and, reasonable? Yeah? Yeah, good. So now I want to ask you a very simple question. So this happiness which is there is understood at different levels. Just to give a very simple example, happiness can be mental. Happiness can be intellectual. Happiness could be, in terms of ego. Like I'll give you simple examples. Like someone who invents something. Like if you invent something. Let us say, forget inventing. Inventing is very far off. Let us say you write a computer program, a very complex program to do some very big kind of computation. Yourself you do, and it works. Isn't there happiness in it? That happiness is intellectual. There is happiness of ego. Like for example, why currently India is feeling unhappy that we didn't win even one gold medal in Rio? It's a matter of ego. That, come on, such a big country. I mean, it's not that if we got gold medals, then, we would have got extra money or something. It is just a matter of ego that we feel that, such a big country, 1.2 billion population, one gold medal we could not win. So, we are feeling a little bad about it. Had we won a gold medal or some few gold medals, it is basically a pleasure of the ego. Are you understanding? You would have felt, yeah, really great about it, with your identity in terms of your nation, nationality. So, my point is, yeah. Sorry. I'm being called? Credit? What time it is? 4 o'clock. I'll come. 10 minutes I'll leave and come. Okay. So, but at the lowest level, there is something called as the physical. Right? At the physical level also, there are activities where we look for pleasure. So I want to ask you some very simple questions. What are the activities, at least at the physical level, which while doing, in the journey of which one experiences happiness? Simple examples can you give me? Huh? Sports? Yeah, but I think at least in today's sports, most of it is spectator sports actually. We sit in front of the TV and look. I'm talking about very practical things than most of us what we do. I mean, how many of us really play? In India, most of us from schooling, we just keep going for tuition, and sometimes we watch cricket and IPL in the middle, and then we come to college. I mean, sorry to say that, but practically speaking, that's how we lead our lives. Anything, what are practical things in the world where we get physical happiness? Music, I would say that, okay, but I would say, okay, everybody in general, somebody may not be a musician, every human being should agree to it. You understand? I want to look for something where everyone agrees. Now somebody is not a musician at all, yes? Achievements, it's again some ego kind of a thing, intellectual. Dance again, but everybody doesn't dance. Now my problem is that I want to look for something where everyone gets happiness, common. No, 1 second, hold on. Listen, I know you like to dance, I understood that very much from your body language, but my simple point is that everybody is not a dancer. So, Huh? Sleeping, yes, that's the first thing. Why not? Is there anyone who will say that I don't find pleasure in sleeping? Come on, you'd be lying. Anything else? Something as simple as this I'm looking for. Eating food. Who doesn't love to eat, Anything else? Yes, family, I agree. Huh? Loved ones, yeah, I agreed. Okay, so basically, eating, sleeping, okay. This loved one stuff I called as mating, basically, so that's the. Yeah, I mean, I put it in a little gross. I know I put it in a little gross way, but that's a fact, right? I mean, that's the, the whole concept of family and all your entertainment, your movies and Bollywood, Hollywood. That's the goal ultimately. Defending. See, defending means, I'll tell you what is defending. Defending means security. That means we all find pleasure in being secure. Like for example, why do we look for a good permanent job? Why do we look for a house that is well fortified? And that means when you are secure, you feel happy in that process of security. Nobody can touch me. I'm secure. I'm assured. That kind of a thing. Defense. Like, defense. The defense of a country is very important, which, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody has to hold a pistol, but the fact that our army jawans are standing there holding it, we are happy. If they were not going to hold it, we are in trouble. I mean, the guys will come in, and we will be finished. Yeah, so. Yeah, so, okay, now one very simple question. What's the difference? Now, one thing you will agree with me, that these 4 things that I just stated, eating, sleeping, mating and defending, is common to every species. That means, I was talking about happiness in the context of everyone. That's why I was telling, like somebody was saying music, but everybody, there are so many people who never hear one song also in their life, kind of. Yeah, there are people like that, strange people. There are animals who do, what I'm saying is, these 4 things every species in the world is looking for. Eating, sleeping, mating and, defending and protection. Is that okay? Everyone looks for them. Okay, now my question to you is, what is it that humans can do which animals cannot? Is there something like that? Yeah. No, thinking. Now, when you say thinking, do animals don't think? I mean, they do think, right? I mean, the point is, yeah. See, animals. Please remember, animals also have rational power and intelligence. I mean, there are. I'll tell you, bee colony. Look at bee colony. The bees are extremely organized in their colony. They are much more disciplined than we folks. Yeah, they are not competing. Who will be queen? अरे वो ही रानी क्यों है? मैं क्यों नहीं रानी बन सकती हूँ? ऐसा कोई problem नहीं. रानी रानी है, मैं drone हूँ, I'm drone, I'm worker. That's all. There's no unnecessary competition. You understand what I'm saying? Many species are extremely intelligent. Yeah, it's a fact. So they do think. So what is it that humans can do that animals cannot? Invent something. Of course, we have invented something looking at some animals also. So, of course, one thing I agree that they invent something which is confined to their DNA. Like, for example, a spider can only make a web. A spider will not make a honeycomb. Of course, we will neither make a web nor a honeycomb. We will drive the honey bees and take away the honey. And we will do something else. Yeah. Expectations. You're saying we have a lot of expectations. Animals are simple that way. Yeah. Okay, that I agree. Yeah, in some way I agree with you. No. One second. Hold it. See, in a particular species there are variation. Like for example, even among dogs, individual dogs will have special trait, as that personality in some way. You understood, na? We're not talking about that, but as a species, what we can do that they cannot is what I'm looking for. They don't have? That's good or bad? I mean, leave it. Sorry. He's saying that they don't have education system. They don't come to college like this and sit and, being bored by a professor on philosophy. They don't have that stuff. Okay, I agree with that in some way. They don't have that. So, but what does that mean? That means we are superior because we have education. But see, again, most of our education is for eating, sleeping, sex and defending, right? I mean, like for example, if you see Google. What's one of the most frequently searched keywords in Google? It's sex. It's sex. You just type how to on Google. You will know what comes. I mean, I was in trouble because I was teaching my 7-year-old son how to use Google. And I told him, see, my dear boy, you want to find out something, you just say how to. And the first thing that came is how to do sex. And he asked me, what is this? I said, abhi chhod do, Google banned. I told him that if you have any question, ask me, I will answer your questions. No Google. Until you become a bigger boy. So the point is, yes, it is actually used for it. So what I'm trying to tell you is, our technology by and large is used for eating, sleeping, sex and defending. So if you see like that. Yeah. So what can we do that animals cannot? Is there anything or there nothing? We can write, huh? They can't write. Okay, but what is the purpose of writing? I mean, see, it's not just about writing. Somebody, animal will say that, I can fly, you cannot fly. Okay, so what? But what do you achieve by writing? You understood? We leave a legacy and animals cannot. Okay, good. Okay, so I'll just go into something that I had to say in this connection. One thing we say certainly is that we humans have used our intelligence like anything to reach summits of technology. Correct? So for example, in every sphere of technology, if you see, we are at cutting edge. But one thing we still have to admit, in many ways, still the world is looking as to how we could be free, we could kind of become more happy. See, there is this World Health Organization that says that the killer of the 21st century is, what? What is the killer of the 21st century? Depression and stress. He said, yeah, that's the killer of the 21st century. It's not cancer, it's not AIDS. It's depression and stress. So the point is, we're still looking for happiness. That means with all the technology, we are still wondering, why are we so depressed? You understood? Because depression, it is statistically seen that the kind of depression levels that humanity experiences in modern generation has not been there even before. You understood? So at least the problem was not there. This is strong. Psychiatric issues, mental issues. You understood? People going crazy. So many reasons are there for that. One reason, for example, is, especially in the Western world, extremely unstable families and children growing up in just one parent family or no parent, and so many other things. So stress, depressions. So my point is very simple, that though we have used all our intelligence to improve in technology, this is one area that we are still searching for. How to actually be happy. Okay. Now for that, so now for that, we come to something related to what a human could do that animal cannot. For that, I have to go to the life of this person called as Siddhartha, Buddha's previous name. It's a very interesting story, but it conveys something that a human can do and animal cannot. I'm sure most of you must have heard it. So the story of Siddhartha is that this fellow is a prince, and he goes out one day on his chariot, and as he's going out, he is seeing a dead man, and he's asking the driver, "What is this death? Can you tell me about it? Why do people die? What is it after it?" The driver has no answer to these questions. He says, "I'm a driver, I'm not a philosopher. Don't ask me these questions, I don't know." He goes ahead, he sees somebody very old. He's asking, why is it that, does that everybody have to become old? What is this old age? Why does it come? So he's asking all kinds of such questions. Have most of you at least read the story of Siddhartha in some way? Yeah. So Siddhartha is asking all these questions to the driver. Why is this person so old? Why is this person diseased? Why is this person dead? None of these questions are answered by the driver. So finally Siddhartha decides that, see, the goal of my life is to find answers to these questions. You please go back home. I'm going. That's how the story is of Siddhartha leaving home. And he gives up his princehood and he goes to search the purpose of life. As in, the purpose of life, as in this context, the way Siddhartha defines it is to find answers as to why is it that humanity is struck with these basic problems of old age, disease, death, or repeated birth. I mean, in that context, if you see. Correct? This is where the purpose of life question comes. So now I have to stop, unfortunately, because I have been called by the director for some meeting. So we are meeting next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and I will take the test at 3 o'clock. So after the session is over. But next session is a very important session. It's the most important among all my 14 sessions. So please do attend the next session. Okay? Thank you very much.